to get the help that they need. Two, that the situation that exists right now is asking for additional time, because we do believe safeguards are present, and I've scoffed about some of those, but we think we have to go that much further to make sure those safeguards are there, so that people that are trapped, and by the way, we're talking about people in their own volition in an irremediable mental illness circumstance.
Minister, there are no legislative safeguards.
Well, you can say that.
Well,
I mean,
you haven't cited one. You haven't cited any. You haven't cited any, and you haven't responded to the fact that 78% of Ontario psychiatrists believe that whatever so-called safeguards that will be in place are completely insufficient. We're talking about wrongful deaths when there's an inappropriate application of MAiD. That's what we're talking about.
So we're talking here in this legislation
is what you've demonstrated is that
we're taking
ideological.
First of all, I'm just going to say I reject.
You're playing with people's lives.
I reject that totally. I reject
that. It's absolutely disgraceful.
No, what is disgraceful is mischaracterizing my position or mischaracterizing the position of any member of Parliament, sir. Saying that any member of Parliament doesn't care about any human life is a disgraceful thing that I will not tolerate.
Well,
and for you to step into this committee and make an accusation of any member of Parliament that they do not care about the life of another human being is absolutely beyond reproach, sir. I have spent my entire life, as you have, fighting for the good in this world. And for you to accuse a good person of not caring about human life, shame on you. Shame on you.
Mr. Chair, if I could just point out that the safeguards that I mentioned are in the Criminal Code of Canada. That is a legislated safeguard. We also have protections, say for exceptional circumstances, against compelled treatment in this country. That's protected under the Charter. Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Johari, please, for 5 minutes. Someone over on the Liberal side, Mr. Naqvi, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair. I do want to go back to the safeguards, because I think that's a very important conversation to have. So starting with you, Mr. Virani, why don't you outline the legislative safeguards that are in place, and perhaps, Minister Holland, you can then talk about the safeguards that are being put in place through the medical community in order to administer MAiD properly.
So let me start with the legislated safeguards that are in legislation called the Criminal Code of Canada. The MAiD request must, so we're talking about Track 2, which is where death is not reasonably foreseeable. You must make the request in writing. 2 independent doctors or nurse practitioners must provide an assessment. The person must be informed that they can withdraw their request at any time and in any manner. The person must be informed, to Mr. Cooper's point, of available and appropriate means to relieve their suffering, including counseling services, mental health and disability support services, community services, palliative care, and must be offered consultations with professionals who provide those services. The person and the practitioners must have discussed reasonable and available means to relieve the person's suffering and agree that the person has seriously considered those means. This assessment must take at least 90 days. You can posit, and what I've heard anecdotally is that in the context of mental illness as a sole underlying condition, it would likely take much longer than 90 days. And lastly, you must provide final consent immediately before MAiD is provided. All of those safeguards are legislated. These are not practice guidelines, practice standards, etc. Those are in the Criminal Code of Canada under the MAiD provisions. I'll turn it over to Minister Holland.
So just very quickly, just to cap that part off, so by legislative means,